I guess my part of the puzzle is that I don't do economic development, I facilitate economic development. I'm privileged and honored to be able to work with a bunch of very talented individuals, other communities, other entities, great staff, great leadership at the city council level and within the city. So really, I just help facilitate, connect people with the dots, and step in and try to resolve issues when possible, but again, working through other people. So I just facilitate it pretty much.
Very good, thank you.
So I think in Pinal County, we see our role, and I'm not sure these are great analogies, but this is what I've come up with. An umbrella and a backstop. So umbrella, and that we kind of market the whole region. We try to bring the region together under one umbrella, you could say, for various things, like marketing efforts, videos, and other advertising to really promote the region. And then a backstop in the sense that when communities might run into an issue with funding, maybe it's infrastructure or something similar to that, the county can often work with those communities to really facilitate that to help promote economic development.
Thank you.
We trade people.
So from our perspective, we're part of the workforce development, we're part of the workforce ecosystem. So that includes our elementary schools, it includes our high schools, Cabot, Central Arizona College, and in some cases, other community colleges. Because when you think about how many employers or employees some of these companies are trying to pull from, there's really no way we can train 5,000 people at Central Arizona College yet. Okay, we're working on that, but that's down the road. Evelyn, write that down. We'll work on that. So as part of that ecosystem, I'm also part of the Workforce Development Board. Richard is as well. So it's looking at that strategic workforce development. How do we identify the companies that are here and the companies that may be coming, so we can build programs or expand the programs that we have to get the workforce ready before those employers even get here.
As a broker, we function as a site selection and land acquisition specialist, but more than that, we serve as a liaison between landowners, our wonderful economic development authorities, and the engineers, the site planners, everything that we need to get ready to bring a site to development.
So from the water utility standpoint, we keep it short, we provide the water, right? But we end up being a kind of a liaison and a partner with everybody else up here on the panel and more there. So we're the interface to help the city, the county understand what are the effects of a potential user have on water supply there. We help with planning for what the broker's trying to bring properties to market. We interface with the developers, the end users, engineers for all the detailed design, planning, and supply there.
Very good. Wow, pithy. Andrew, extra points for pithy. All right, thank you very much for that. Hopefully that sets the stage. This next question is going to go to James, Rich, and Trey, if we could. By the way, everybody's referring to you as Richard. Am I wrong in saying Rich? I've always known you as Rich. Richard. Oh my. All right, very good, Richard. I'm sorry. I apologize. So again, this question is for James, Richard, and Trey. So who does the infrastructure, and what does that involve?
Yes. Who does the infrastructure?
And what does that involve?
Infrastructure, if you're talking about utilities, you're talking about roads, infrastructure. If we're just keeping it to that for the infrastructure at that point, obviously it's a joint effort, because if you've got land and you don't have any infrastructure, you have dirt. So if you're a property owner and you want to get ahead of the game or basically provide yourself an advantage for being looked at by a site selector, you want to have that piece of land as shovel ready as possible, which includes basically maybe doing some of the infrastructure, putting in, working with like Central Arizona Commerce Park. I'll put that up there right there. They made an investment into the utilities to bring all those utilities to the sites. So when a site selector looked at it, a company came and looked at it, when this site has water, power, sewer, it's already there. That gives them an enormous advantage over other properties of similar kind of comparison. But the city recognized, the perfect example, in the city, 2007 hit. We can all remember that, hopefully not very well, but we're moving on to the next, this next phase of development in the community. They didn't sit back and just wait for things to happen. This is going back to how, a lot of respect on my part to the city management and the city council at that time to make investments into the infrastructure, the wastewater, basically the wastewater, to extend it into the industrial park, to better position ourselves to be ready for that development when it came forward. So you'll see some city, sometimes county jumps in and helps out with some of this road infrastructure. The city does roads, city does wastewater, but water is pretty much a developer driven at that point. Southwest Gas can extend lines, so it's a combination of utilities making investment into an area that they see primed for development, the developer taking advantage of that, and the city and the county at times making an investment. So really, it's a team effort there.
So I let Richard take that one first because generally the cities are responsible for the infrastructure within their own communities. There are some examples where there are county roads that need to be built to facilitate development, and so the county is responsible for those roads and takes care of those. And then also, I kind of alluded to this earlier, the county has come alongside some of the cities when there's been a need for infrastructure to enter into development agreements to help facilitate that development.
One point of clarification, it's development too. Really, when a site comes into it, they're responsible for putting utilities in, and they play a major role for the city. I don't want to say the city does not pay for everybody's utilities, okay? I want to put that out there because I know that my boss, wherever he is looking at me like, so it really is developer, but we have in the past taken advantage to better position those things, and we recoup it at the other end. But mainly, new companies coming in, they're doing the infrastructure. We might assist depending on the type of project, but it's developer really.
That, I had heard that in the past before, that part of the deal is that whoever's coming in is going to pay. Do they pay for all of it then usually, or how does that?
Well, again, it depends. Development agreements are a common practice. So when you have a Lucid that's going to be, love Lucid, they're going to be ultimately employing over 6,000 people. When you have a major employer like that, the city and the county can come together and work towards making it, I don't want to say incentivized, but really making it easier for them to make that selection to come to the community. But basically, unless you're 6,000, if you have, we have companies coming in for 50 and 100 acres or 100 jobs, and they're in, depending on where they are, they may not need wastewater, or they may not need road infrastructure, which is where we kind of focus on. So there would be nothing coming from the city. We give them expedited plan review, we walk them through the process, we make it as easy as possible, but generally it really is on the development, the developer.
Wonderful.
As Richard and James both said, real estate is a team sport, and so is infrastructure, and it really comes down to where the funding is going to come from. There's a variety of different mechanisms that the landowners can use to fund it, the developers can use to fund it, and that the city and county can use to fund it. When it comes to private funding, there are bond financing options. There's several different kinds. There's also ways to do it where you can escrow the funds from the sale of the land in order to fund it after the closing. There's a variety of ways to do it, and it is a team sport, so it goes a little bit on the city, a little bit on the county, a little bit on the developer, and a little bit on the user. And when it's spread out, it makes those large costs a lot easier to overcome.
Very good, very good. Thank you for that. By the way, we're going to have some time at the end for questions, so keep those until then if you could please. Here's the next question. Trite, I know, but they say whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting. You've heard that all before, right? Especially down here. I hadn't heard it until a few months ago, so for me it's still funny. Andy, if you could address that a little bit for us, if you could. The issues around water.
It's all about water in the desert. So there's a lot of things in the news that people have heard about water supply, long-term supply there and everything. And we have, Arizona Water Company has in-house experts, on the water resources side, Terry Sue Rossi and Jeff Ingwood, who've done other presentations on kind of the long-term water supply viability and everything. And summarizing, we're in a good position, good plan moving forward. It's going to require some time, effort, and funding there. But what I really want to focus on, since I'm not the hydrologist, I'm the engineer, I'm going to focus on the engineering side there. Actually, I should probably mention, not sure if everybody knows who Arizona Water Company is. I know Richard kind of alluded to it there. We are a separate water utility separate from the city. We've been actually in operation and serving the Casa Grande area for over 100 years. Didn't know if anybody knew that. We have a large service area that covers this whole region, stretching from Stanfield through Casa Grande to Coolidge up to the reservation down to Arizona City. Covers that whole area. And what we end up doing here, as I alluded to earlier, is we're working with the city, the county, the brokers, the property owners, developers, end users. We're part of that whole mesh there, working with them to identify what those individual solutions are for those developments. I know a lot of what's been discussed here today is a lot of like industrial type users, job producing users there, which are typically not subject to the certificate or water supply rule there. I won't get into that too much. But we can come in at any point here in the process and working with those developers, understand what their end use and demands are there. We work with the design engineers there, and our focus is figuring out what is the actual infrastructure necessary to serve that development there. We have a pretty expansive water system there, but as Richard mentioned at the city, we're able to kind of grow as development comes. Development funds development when it comes to water infrastructure, and using water as an example, but it's the same for the rest of the utilities in the area. So we work closely with them to understand what their uses are, what that infrastructure is, extending water mains, constructing new, well supplies, treatment plants, pump stations, things like that. And then we end up working with them and figuring out how can we partner there, and what opportunities do we have for the utility to help facilitate that work, and that could be in the form of some examples we've done. We've got out in front of development. We've gone out and identified and acquired, real properties for well sites and campuses. We've even moved forward with design and permitting of some of those facilities there, trying to get those kind of teed up and ready to go for either development or Arizona Water Company moving forward with our own investments to kind of solidify the capacities there, similar to what city's done on wastewater, maybe other infrastructure side. So then as those developers move forward, those end users move forward there, we draft our agreements, development agreements, if you want to call it that, around that infrastructure that's needed to serve them. And Arizona Water Company looks to partner there, especially if we have some, using Lucid as an example, they're a much larger user. They can end up funding a lot of the infrastructure and everything on their own. We have quite a few smaller users that come in. So that's where we've got to really kind of bring the whole group together and get creative of how do you come up with solutions that work for the smaller users there, keep things even and fair amongst the developments there, but still getting the water supply, the infrastructure, and everything we need to reliably provide those demands, like right now during the peak summertime. Making sure we have adequate fire flows available for those, whether they're residential or industrial users there. So we look for those opportunities where maybe we can partner to fill the gap in some of those pieces of infrastructure where we can oversize for the overall betterment of the community and the system that we serve. So through all that, there's, talked about what all happens before the dirt's turned, and I'm a little bit biased, I think, being an engineer on the utility side, but I feel like almost all the work happens before we start turning dirt out there. It's all the planning, the agreements, design, permitting, coordination, funding. Trey mentioned the funding there. Unfortunately, one of the effects on the economy and supply chain shortages, we're seeing additional costs and extended project schedules, things like that we've all got to work through to make sure that we can provide this infrastructure and utilities to these users. That's probably it.
That's good. That's good. I used to live in the Monterey Peninsula, and they didn't allow any building at all unless the water was already accounted for. Are you grabbing the microphone, Richard?
If I could just jump in here.
Please do.
Try to be pithy. I think Andy's absolutely right about all the work that goes in there. You're talking about whiskey, for drinking, water's for fighting kind of thing. And I think misperception, we've seen this time and time again, there's no water here. That's not the case. I want to go on record here. It's not the case. We have to be better stewards of the water. It is a finite resource, and we're in Arizona, people. We're in a desert. But the fact of the matter is with all the development that's gone on, we've taken out a lot of ag. We still need ag, love ag. But the fact of the matter is that our water uses really hasn't gone up that much. I could be wrong, but my understanding is that it's still kind of there. So we're seeing development change over, but the water is a concern for everybody. But we still have in the city over 17,000 plotted lots. Plotted lots? This is Monday, isn't it? No, it's not. It's Friday. Platted lots, let's try that again, where we can build single-family homes, which you need a shared water supply to do that. For the build-to-rent, the multifamily traditional apartment complex, you don't necessarily need that. So we have water to grow here. And from an industrial standpoint, we have water to grow. We're more cautious about the businesses and the companies that we are looking to actively recruit to be here so that we are being judicious and we're watching the water supply. But I want to go on record, we do have water, we're going to be developing, we're developing smarter, we're taking these things into consideration when we're looking to recruit businesses here.
And I can echo that. I mean, Richard and I are on calls or emails a couple times a week, and typically like to equate. Sometimes it's difficult to kind of comprehend some of these larger water demands when you have an industrial user come in, and we're able to talk through it and kind of equate that. Well, you can have this one user here that has 100 jobs. That's the equivalent of 6,000 homes in the water demands that get there. So we're here to support the city and the county and everything. We just want to help educate of what that really means for the supply. And Richard, thank you for chiming in there. We have the water, we have solutions there for any and all of these users for continued growth. So.
Very good, thank you. So land, water, nothing happens unless you have humans who are trained to be able to do stuff. Andrew, what about workforce and such?
Yeah, workforce is always a challenge. I'm a recovering economic developer. So years ago, I did economic development at Casa Grande, Coolidge, and Eloy. So worked with Richard on that side of the house. And during that time, workforce was almost an afterthought in some cases, where a company would make the decision, they would come here, and then they say, oh, wow, we're opening in a few months, we need to build our workforce. That's changed a lot. So when Richard and James are out there talking to companies, we're invited to the table. Maybe not at the first conversations, but as it's getting closer and closer to that decision point, they'll bring us in so we can talk about our programs, we can talk about the successes we've had, we can talk about the partnerships. One of the things that when Lucid was coming, they needed 5,000 people. And I mentioned earlier that there's no way we can train that many people. So we partnered with the Maricopa Community College District and the Pima Community College District, and we aligned our curriculum. And that's a big deal for employers, because if I have a program and Maricopa has a program and Pima has a program, then they don't really know what that end goal or the end skill is from the person coming out of that program. So we've aligned everything. We've aligned our curriculum. We've aligned our equipment. So there is, a comfort when an industry is coming in and looking at locating in the area. But we also can't build a program exclusively for an industry. So my philosophy is we'll get you 70 to 80% of the way, because there's a lot of industrial secrets that companies have. So with manufacturing, for example, a lot of the processes are similar. So that's why we can get them up to that 80% point. But another thing is we have a large population of our residents that are leaving Pinal County to go work somewhere else. Was that 60%? 80% of our workforce moves out, and then they come back. So as we're bringing these employers in, we have to have those training programs, so if somebody decides that they want to change careers, that they can upskill or reskill and be able to get those jobs that are being brought to the area. So we also have to get, as I mentioned before, really strategic and think long-term about what training programs that we need to have in Pinal County. And we also need to get that in deeper into the high school. So we have lots of partnerships for dual enrollment programs, because if you think about a lot of our high school students that are coming out at 18, they need jobs now because they're trying to support their families or trying to help support their families. So if we can offer dual enrollment programs that will allow them to get those credentials early, then they can get into the workforce earlier and then come back later and finish that associate degree program to help continue along their career path. So, it's an ebb and flow. We've got lots of challenges with all of the new employers that are coming to the area, and we need to train enough people so we're not cannibalizing from our existing employers. So finding those right training programs are very important.
Anybody have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to add a few things. Andrew's right. We have a huge percentage of people that leave Pinal County every day to go into another county to work. So it's 80% throughout the county, but in parts of Santan Valley, it's 90%. In Maricopa, it's 84%. So we're really losing a lot of our people. And I tell companies that, if you become an employer of choice in Pinal County, you have an opportunity to keep those people here. And I just want to add that is one of the strategic goals of our Board of Supervisors, is to keep more of our residents here. It's just better for everyone. We don't have to build as many roads. There is a better quality of life. These folks can be involved in school boards and Little League and all of those kinds of things. So I think it's just advantageous to the whole county that we turn those numbers around, bring good quality employment here and turn those numbers around. I think all of us involved in Pinal County should be proud of the partnerships, and these guys are part of it, and Larry and some of the other folks. Drive 48 has gotten national and international recognition for its training programs for Lucid. There's going to be a similar program that the county and Queen Creek and CAC and the state have entered into for LG. So folks from LG will be trained at a similar facility to Drive 48. So I think it shows the commitment to workforce development from all of the partners here. And just one other thing I'd like to add, our Board of Supervisors early last year passed a job training reimbursement program. So we're very limited in the incentives we can offer companies because of our state constitution. But one of the areas that we can participate in is job training. So there's reimbursements of up to $4,000 per employee for job training. So really we're looking for those high wage, high skill manufacturing jobs, and the county's willing to put some money towards the training and upskilling of our people. So just a few thoughts on workforce.
Workforce is, without workforce, we wouldn't all be up here. So I'm just piggybacking off of what James was saying. He and his team, Joel Millman, is working with they're the workforce side of the house for Pinal County, and Arizona at Work does a great job in helping to promote programs that will help in the development of workforce. Other key players in this are the industry themselves and working with our high schools. And here's the commitment I'd like to say. You've got Chuck Wright, Stephen Hunt, Kelly's here from the school board. They're committed to making good positive changes led by Mr. Lavender at our high school district to help incorporate more better process of enhancing our educational opportunities, our CT programs for our students to help them meet the needs of the future. And then we've got Cab and Stacy Rich out there and their whole team, which has played a vital role in helping to better understand and align themselves with industries, working with those industries to help develop the pipelines for the future workforce, their future workforce. So it really is a team effort here. And as a community, we have to continue to support our education. We have to, and our Dr. Leckey's here too from the elementary school board. So I mean, you've got this elementary school board, elementary school district, and the high school district, Mission Prep, ASU Preparatory, all of those institutions. We have to continue to support them and encourage them to work with our industries and on the other side, industries working with our education, our schools to help develop that future workforce.
Shout out to Arizona at Work out there. I see you, Linda. Nice to see you. Hi. Very good. Thank you for that. Next, we're going to turn to James. You're under the spotlight, James. Can you expound a little bit more on the county's role, please?
So really, I think I kind of hit on this before. So I'll just go into some of the things that we've been doing lately. We worked with Brian Kramer on producing a video that was really born out of our Pinal Partnership Economic Development Committee, and there was a feeling that people just didn't realize how much was happening in Pinal County. And we wanted to get that word out. And so we worked with our economic development partners as well as some of the elected officials and Brian to produce a video, some of our internal county staff as well, to produce a video that really highlights what's happening in all of our communities and as well as what the opportunities are going forward. So we're really pleased with the result, and hopefully at some point we can make that available to everybody. And so we really are trying to brand and market the whole region as having great opportunities with our strategic location here, with the workforce that we have and some of our innovative programs. So, that's really what we spend a lot of our time on is really marketing the whole county. So along those lines, we just this week, AZRE produced a piece on Pinal County and what's been happening and the opportunities. We're in the process of updating our economic development profile, and we expect that to be done within a couple months or so, that will highlight, again, everything that's happening in the county, opportunities, and really kind of the highlights of what's happening. And then we also do the same on the tourism side. So we're in the process of updating our visitors guide. We're marketing the area for big events. And one of the things that we really tried to capitalize this last year was there are so many high impact events with the Super Bowl and obviously with Barrett Jackson and some of the other events. We've got the Final Four coming this next year. So we're in the airports. We have videos running. We have column wraps in some of the airports. So that's another thing that we're kind of spending some time on, is really trying to bring more tourism and activity here to the county.
Awesome. Thank you. This last bit is on retail and restaurants. I'll direct this to Trey and Richard. What goes on there?
So most retail and restaurants function on an equation. The developers and the operators function on an equation that is based out of economic development in the area, the amount of employees in the area, the people who work, the people who are going to be shopping at those places, their income, and the total population of a city. With the 15,000 new jobs we have coming online in the next several years, we stand to be in a really good position for getting a lot more retail and restaurants. Currently, as we are growing, we are getting more. We just recently got the Texas Roadhouse. I know that's been a huge hit here. We may have lost out on the cold beer and cheeseburgers, but it's just around the corner. As we grow, we will continue to hit a retail boom and a restaurant boom as our economic development continues to grow.
Yeah. Retail follows house rooftops, basically, as the saying goes. And we've seen I think over the last 3 years, actually 4 years going on, we've seen a significant increase in the number of households. We're talking single family permits, and now you add in the build to rent and apartment complex development that's going on. We're going to see more and more to get to the population. And, many times there's been people who've asked to say, why can't we get just fill in the blank? Applebee's, a Trader Joe's, a Whole Foods. My wife is, when's Target coming back? That's right. Thanks, Kelly. All right, so the reality is that we are up and coming. They take hold, it's a business decision. They take a look, and they're only going to open a certain number of stores every year. It's just a business sense. So they're going to take a look at that and go, okay, I need 250, 300,000 people within a 3-mile range. Well, we're different from the urban core. We are. People will drive, but to many of these businesses, they are successful because they make it based on this formula. So we will get there. We'll get the cold the cheeseburgers and cold beer cheeseburgers. We'll get there. We'll get our Target back at some point in time. We'll get the Whole Foods. We'll get that, but not today. Not right now. But everything we are doing is to get us a Target back. Okay, that's my sole purpose in life right now, is to get that Target back and make my life that much easier. Yes. But the reality is that we're seeing a lot. In the last couple of years alone, I think you've taken a look around town. We've got the Texas Roadhouse. We've got the Hideouts, Steak and Barbecue. We've got Rosati's. We've got Asian Bistro. We've got Angry Crab, which I've never heard of, basically. But we're seeing Lynn's Grand Buffet. We're seeing all of these things. In fact, we've got a rallies going across the street, hopefully, right across from City Hall. I'm excited about that. Freddy's Frozen Yogurt supposedly is, if you've taken a look in front of the Crossroads Church, that might be what's going there. So we are seeing all of this. We have a very strong interest by a Marriott, a dual branded Marriott for the Promenade. People sit there, Promenade, it's vacant. It's not vacant. Have you been there lately? Yes, it's got some room for new businesses, but they're working hard at that. In all of this development, from a retail standpoint, it's not just about us. I know it's hard to believe, but it's beyond Casa Grande, because we are the retail hub of Pinal County. Now Santan might have its thing, but I guess that's Queen Creek, sorry. But you look at it, Coolidge, Eloy, Arizona City, the unincorporated county, they come shopping in Casa Grande. So that takes place into this whole equation too, but that's a difficult conversation with some of these companies that do have that 3-mile, 5-mile, 200, 500,000 population, household income X, blah, blah, blah. But they're encouraged, and that's the reason we're seeing more of these companies coming in, because of Lucy's expansion, Kohler's coming in, Chinchon, all of these additional companies that have bought land or under construction or expanding. They see the writing on the wall that this is a very, very good opportunity for them. Maybe not today, but in the very near future.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, this is. I think he just made an announcement.
No announcement.
This isn't directly related to Casa Grande, but one of the things that we're kind of working on in the county is helping out with Santan Valley, because it's unincorporated. We did a retail study recently, and there's $1.3 billion in retail sales that leave that area every year, and that's across pretty much all categories. Those folks are going into, whether it's Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, and primarily Queen Creek, and they're spending their dollars that are going into Maricopa County and building their roads, their parks, their libraries. So we really need to head that off and stop it and bring retail opportunities to that area. So it's one of the things that we've been working on, because it is an unincorporated area, is to see what we can do to bring more retail development to Santan Valley. And it's not a stretch by any means. There's over 100,000 people there, so there's plenty of people to support that retail, but we really need to stop that money from leaving our county every year.
Anybody else want to add to that at all? If you recall, the goal for today was to give you an idea of how economic development, the pieces of the puzzle and how they come together. I was jokingly saying earlier that the sub-goal is so that these guys don't get, you don't come up to them every time you see them out having dinner and say, when is the Red Lobster going to show up? There are metrics here that these businesses are just not going to show up until there's this, this, and this, right, Trey? That's what we were getting at.
Yeah, absolutely.
First off, before we open the floor, I'd like to thank the panelists for today's questions.
Great, thank you all of you gentlemen for kind of an economic development 101 for the varied audience here. I'd like to know from each of your perspectives, what are the pinch points as you are out there either courting or attracting or retaining industry to the region? A pinch point from your perspective. Because we are in competition, not only amongst ourselves, but the region and globally at this point.
I think the pinch points that everybody faces is the workforce aspect. I mean, it is key to our continued success in attracting companies. But again, as I mentioned, I'm very optimistic about our ability to not only grow our own naturally through our educational systems, but I know from my department, we're doing a focused, targeted media campaign, not for companies, but for talent, because we have the successes we're generating right now. We're in a cycle of success, as I like to say. It's like it started, Tractor Supply, then we got Lucid, and then we've got Kohler, and then we've got all these semiconductor-related companies, and we've got some logistics. We're going really, really well right now, but we need that. We need the workforce, a diverse workforce. We're not looking for necessarily. We need the engineers. We need all those professionals. We need those degree programs, but we also need those basically skilled, like certifications. And there's a lot of opportunity for our students that may not go on to four-year college to get into a CTE program or just get in through CAC and get some certification to go right into the workforce and make a very decent living. So workforce is probably the pinch point that we're all facing, but I'm optimistic.
Obviously, workforce is one of them. We get a lot of questions about water. I'll go in a different direction. Transportation. On 469, not passing was not good for us. We needed those roads to, especially, I think we have a real opportunity to pick up where California has slammed the door on transportation, distribution, logistics type companies. Obviously, we want advanced manufacturing, we want those high-paying jobs, but transportation is key to economic development everywhere. So we've got to find a way to fund those roads.
Yeah, I heard you say pitch point. You said pinch point? Or did you say pitch? Okay. So for our standpoint, it's finding qualified instructors. So in our CTE programs, in our healthcare programs and things like that, they make more in the industry than we can ever possibly offer. When you have somebody coming out, we had a welding student, got out of high school, went through the 2-year program and started making $100,000 right away. Now that's on the upper end, but we have a lot of success stories like that. So that's our biggest issue, is how do we fund, maybe not up to the industry standard, but close enough where they'll decide that they don't want to work out in 119-degree weather and come teach in the classroom with us. So.
On the brokerage side, more than anything, it's the establishment and preparation of shovel-ready sites. Up in Phoenix, most of the sites are already shovel-ready and have all the utilities to the lot lines. With the recent boom we had in 2022, we sold about 2,500 acres of shovel-ready ground, which takes a lot off of the books for us. So now we're working on getting more and more sites ready so that we're prepared for those users when they want to come in.
And say from us, and maybe other utilities, we've got costs, time, information. I know we talk about industrial, and I've talked with quite a few people in this room here. We get asked the question, do we have water for this user here? And I ask questions about that user, how much water, fire flow and everything. It's like coming to someone and say, I want to buy a car. Well, great. What kind of car do you want? You want a new car, used car? You want a pickup truck, semi-truck, van, RV? What is it? Well, I don't know. So just know I want a car. So information is a challenge, and I realize sometimes it's kept confidential and everything there. But that's one. Information helps us plan and try to help assist the city and the county in getting those sites shovel ready, like Trey mentioned. Costs, I mean, everyone's seen some inflation there. We've seen quite a bit of increase in construction costs. I'd say significant increases over the last few years, and also due to we've seen some delays in those materials being available. So that's been a pinch point, challenge there, making sure we're trying to get out ahead there, educating those users on the costs and kind of the time frame to be able to have that infrastructure available for them.
Thank you. I think this gentleman was next. I'm sorry.
And I don't need to. No, I'm going to talk. You know me, I'm going to talk. Gentlemen, thanks for coming today. A lot of good information. Richard, thank you for mentioning about trades, because that's what I was going to bring up. My question is for Jack and Andrew. So many years, CAC had an automobile repair program. And what you mentioned just now is you're talking about these engineers and all that come in. Let me tell you, a good technician makes 6 figures every year. It's not, and they're here in this town, and they go someplace else. I have a continual problem finding help, period. I offer health insurance, which is not cheap, and I've got less than 12 people working for me. So the economic help that you're talking about is going to all these new people coming in. You're not addressing us that are already here that need that extra help, need that push for education. We've been asking that for years. Even the high school did away with the automotive program. Who's going to service these electric cars? Who's going to service these for that? You all demand every day. My guys are exhausted all the time, and I lose them because of that exhaustion, because we can't find good qualified people that have been trained. That goes for the little restaurants and all. And let me get it straight to you, a lot of it has to do with us not paying enough money. Honestly, we don't put enough money into our food. I've increased my wages so much that my accountant said stop. But I've got good quality people. And we've been here 31 years, so we're working on that. But even Arizona Water's looking for help, and they pay excellent. And so here we have the jobs available, but we're not getting the training out of our schools anywhere to have them stay here. And we're pretty selective, but we want people to stay in our community. How do we address that as a group? We've never had CNC quit asking us to come in, honestly. Jack, you mentioned some of the stuff, economic development. It maybe needs to go to our schools and train, and maybe give them scholarships to some of these kids so they can get into the trade. HVAC, how many plumbers are not out there? Everybody needs go on the internet today, how good my air conditioner fix? I'm down today, and they're 2 weeks out. It's scary. So, any ideas?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because we do focus a lot on the manufacturing side and the larger scale operations, but throughout the whole county, and that's really what my focus is looking at what those well, anyway, what I'm doing with the county, we haven't started it yet, but it's on the docket, I'm really big on data. So I'm working with the data folks at the county to create a heat map that shows us where particular industries are. So that way I can talk to my administration about what the need, the density of jobs that we have in a particular area and promoting those programs. It's very expensive to start new programs, and if you look at the space that we have at our campuses, we're pretty maxed out. So we will have to do some more building and stuff like that. Evelyn, plug your ears. I haven't talked to Jack about this yet. But it's really looking at that data and talking to the industries to find out what those needs are. We're looking at putting in a commercial HVAC program and plumbing up at our Apache Junction campus. What about residential HVAC? So that's something that we have to do too. So there's only so much bandwidth to start new programs each year, but by finding the explicit needs, we'll then promote the programs. But one of the ideas that I had around the automotive tech is, it is expensive to put an auto shop in. So what time does your shop close at night? 5 o'clock. So I could conceivably partner with an auto shop to hold the instruction there in a real shop where we would still pay for our instructional supplies, but then I won't have to build an auto shop. So those are things that are percolating up here, but I'm glad you mentioned it because that's telling me I need to work a little bit faster.
Most of the people you hire are mechanics that take off and make more money than before. That's what you say.
Yeah.
You make more money than you make pay $50,000, they're making $100,000.
Yeah, but if we work with somebody like yourself, where we can offer the instruction in your shop and use your folks as the instructors, I don't know too many people who won't want to make a little extra money on the side. So there's ways that we can do it. We just have to be creative about it, and we have to use data to make that informed decision.
Brett, don't hold it against me. When I graduated high school in Scottsdale, not from Pinal County, but when I graduated high school in Scottsdale, the graduation ceremony, they said, everybody who's going to college next year, stand up. A bunch of people stand up, everybody applauds. Everybody's going to the military next year, stand up, everybody applauds. They're like, thank you. Moving on. And I said, well, wait a minute, what about people who are going to work next year? Because that was my route. I didn't go straight to college. I'm curious from the panel, if you have answers, what do businesses or what do community organizations do to help students go from high school to a meaningful trade? Like this gentleman just said, I mean, we're in between two major world-class institutions who have billions of dollars in their endowment who are aggressively recruiting Pinal County and everywhere else. How do we combat that with keeping people in Pinal County and getting them into a job right away so they can get trained and get working and stay here right away?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and that's heard here. It's been heard at the local workforce board that we sit at. I know it's been heard at the high school district, and I'm sure at Cabot. Fact of the matter is all our students aren't going to go to a 4-year. We all recognize that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's been a big kind of light bulb epiphany by people over the last 5, 6, 7 years, I hope, as we come to that realization that we need to celebrate, and we do. We try to celebrate all our students. And we're trying to create, and I know the board is really focused on doing, and Mr. Levner and his team is doing a good job of trying to make it a secure, safe place, and a place where students can go and really focus on their learning, but bringing in and aligning themselves and working with the industries to come in to help promote the CTE programs, to help influence potential curriculum that will help, like you said, when they get done with high school, they can either go on to college, they can go on to CAC, or and then they can go straight into the industries. But throughout that, they go through the high school districts, Mission Heights Preparatory or ASU, or Cabot is a great partner too. We're focusing on that. We're trying to, and I say we as a general we, as I know that they're all trying to focus on bringing that element into the education of our students, because there's nothing wrong with it. So at the graduation ceremony, it's more along the lines of just celebrating all of them. Believe me, we offer the military. Gotcha, I get that. And those going on to college, but those that are going on with going into the workforce, we're all proud of it because they're going to be productive members of society, and I think we all recognize that. We have to support all of them to that point, but we are trying. We're definitely going to be doing better and better and better, but it's not a simple flip of the switch. I guess I really wish it was, but the fact of the matter is it takes a little bit of time, but thank you for your question.
Hi, thank you all again. Just to kind of piggyback what Dallas was saying, so I'm from Cancer and Blood Specialist. We have had 2 full-time nursing positions posted for the last 2 months and haven't had a single applicant. And I know I've had internal folks that have tried to go to nursing school are waiting, but the waiting list is so long that we're talking years and years. We would be more than willing to help work with a program to help train or do clinical rotation, just to help push those out. I'm sure the hospital has the same issues with, especially nurses, more than anything else right now.
Yeah, and definitely willing to talk about that type of thing, because we do have to get creative. And again, we even have staffing issues with trying to find the qualified nurses. In order to be able to teach nursing, you have to have that master's degree. That's not our requirement, that's the American Nursing Association. So, they're out in the field right now making a lot more money. So by partnering with industry, where we potentially put those clinicals on site, maybe use your faculty or your staff to be the faculty on site. Those are definitely things that we can pursue, and we are looking at. It's a slow go, because we're trying to get our program back where we have enough staff to teach it, and then we can expand. We are looking at expanding our nursing program to another one of our campuses down the road in the short term. But healthcare is another one of those huge challenges, and trying to get those faculty to be able to have the right qualifications is very, very difficult, and to be able to pay them.
I haven't been paying attention, I'm sorry.
I'm keeping my eye on it. Pretty good, sir.
So I think we have an Achilles heel. I think we have a big problem that I think everybody's kind of aware of. That, we bring the factories in, we train the employees, then what? They need a place to live. We have an attainable housing crisis right now. We're not about to have one, we have one right now. And I keep hearing we have enough apartments, we don't. We have enough BTR, we don't. I don't want to live in a manufactured house. You don't have to. I've never seen anybody buy a house that they didn't want to buy. But how do you build a viable workforce when we've got 15,000 people coming in? The median price home is $350. You need 80 grand a year to buy that with 50 grand down. Most of those people are priced out before they get here. So can you comment about building a viable workforce with the challenge of attainable housing?
Thank you, man.
Yeah, it's hard. I honestly think that's more of a Richard question, because we have to build more houses,
Thank you. No, Kirk, you're absolutely right. We recognize that. I know the city recognizes that, and we encourage, and we've had multiple conversations with people looking to, I want to bring in this affordable housing product. It's like, we'll talk with any of them. It boils down to, and you've seen, if you've been tracking, single-family housing permits have slowed down because of the inflation and the interest rates and all of that, but it's not going to go away because there is a pent-up demand. There's not enough housing. And so build-to-rent and apartment complexes, they're moving forward with all that. We have to encourage taking a look at different products, different types of housing, and it has to make sense, because it's the roles of the role of the community, like planning and development, is to make sure that we are developing a community that meshes well. It's complementary of the adjacent property uses and all that. So there's some challenges, but there is room for all of these different types of housing. Tiny homes, that's been brought up a couple times. It's a possible viable option for some of these folks, especially workforce. If you're just looking to get some workers in here, even if it's the front line, if they had tiny homes, they would snatch that up in a heartbeat. It's just encouraging the developers to come in and take a look. And listen, it costs a lot less money. Maybe someone's going to tell me I'm wrong, but the affordability from a Casa Grande standpoint to affordability in the metro areas, it's night and day. And so we have seen the uptick in the cost of our housing. It's still far lower than up in the valley. We need more of it. You're right, Kurt. We need more. We need to encourage developers to come in and bring in, but we also want them to bring in affordable, like workforce type housing, because that's what we're looking at, bringing these new people into the frontline employees. They have to be able to afford for those houses too. So it is challenging.
I echo everything Richard said, but here's another thing, Kurt. You're absolutely right. We need more attainable housing for workers, but here's another kind of thing we need to think about. When these factories are coming online, for example, when LG was thinking about coming here, they needed literally hundreds of apartments for folks that were coming over from Asia to work on these factories. So we need, like adaptable, quick, different products. In Pinal County, we have a lot of single-family homes, but we need more different different products, more extended stay, more, whether that's apartments that are extended stay or hotels. We just need a lot of different product to support what's happening.
I had time to think about it, so thank you for a lot of that. I think from a workforce strategy, it's focusing also on that 80% that do the out commute. So they're already living here. If we can get them to work here, then that can help out a lot of that. At least in the short term, that's the low-hanging fruit, while we still work on these longer-term challenges of housing.
There's another opportunity that is really out there, and that's breaking the stigma on manufactured housing subdivisions. They're background checked, they're very high quality these days. They have pools, they have clubhouses, they have pickleball courts, and they're affordable to even school teachers in their first year could afford to outright purchase one of these homes. And that's something that is an opportunity that exists around the county, and it's being fought a lot. And if it's something that people are willing to support and actually look into the details of, it could offer a great solution to our issues.
Hello, thank you gentlemen for coming. It's always a pleasure to meet you. Who is in the background on all these decisions that have been made in our communities and lives? Coming from Massachusetts, we had a similar situation where technology was growing very rapidly. Houses were running out. We couldn't get enough manufacturing people. And a number of us business leaders in the community got together and said, we're going to solicit our education system to put up a co-op program for students to come in. Instead of trying to figure out what they're going to do when they graduate, we're going to give them some opportunities in their junior and senior year to come on board and do work within the facilities, starting out low, but giving them a roadmap and literally a step program whereby they can grow within that job. So they become familiarized with the company, become familiarized with the community that they live in, and so to help stabilize keeping people within the community instead of leaving us going to another state. We found that works very well. And we transitioned a lot of schools to accomplishing their needs in terms of placing the students going forward. Food for thought, that's it.
Thanks, Richard. Any comment on that?
Yeah, so career exploration is huge. So one of the things that I'm looking at doing is how do we get that message? What jobs are out there to the lower levels. What we've done in the past is a program called the Young Adults Technology Academy, where we brought 7th and 8th graders and then 9th and 10th graders to campus, so they got to play with all the toys. They got to do some welding, they got to do a little bit with our heavy equipment, machining, robotics and things like that. So how do we expand that across the whole county? But also, and this is hopefully next summer, I'm working on this as well, but a teacher academy. So how do we get in front of the teachers to let them know what those jobs are? Because I don't know about you, but I never thought I'd work in higher ed when I was going to school. I didn't know those jobs were there. I didn't know I was going to get into economic development. So being able to expose the students at a lower age to what the jobs that are out there will be pretty huge as well. So if you've got examples, I'd be more than happy to reach out to them and talk to them. Because I'm not proud. I'll steal anybody's program that works and bring it to Arizona. So if there's a model out there, we'll take a look at it.
I tell you what I'd like to do is if I can make sure that you get each other's emails and he can communicate with you, all right?
If I could just, it's like apprenticeship programs is something that the Workforce Board is really trying to promote, and you're right, it's industry. But for what we need today, I want to make sure that we've talked a lot about the industrial side, the bigger employers and stuff like that, but we can't forget about our smaller employers. Really the life and blood of our community is the small businesses. So, we work with them, and this is an opportunity for the chamber, the city, Main Street, and other organizations to kind of, have conversations about their challenges. Workforce impacts them too. In fact, I think in some regards it impacts them even more. So workforce development is very, very important to the lifeblood of our community, which is the smaller businesses. And you know what? We can bring in 1 or 2 companies that bring in 200, 300 jobs. That's amazing. But how many more jobs do our small businesses actually create for this community? Thousands. So
This gentleman is exactly what we did. We utilized his facility to train automotive students.
Okay,
And they learn side by side with his great mechanics.
it's an amazing opportunity.
It is great methodology.
Yeah.
Because they can learn.
Hey, Richard, we got close up. Do you mind? Can we take this off?
So I would encourage small businesses that you're here is please be vocal. Please work with, engage the workforce board, James and Joel Millman and the Arizona Work. If you've got positions you're having trouble filling, please utilize that service who can help identify potential your employees. They can offer programs for training of your employees. There's a lot of resources out there through the Arizona at Work for small businesses that are applicable to small businesses. So I know the city, we value you. We want to make sure that if you've got some concerns about that, you can always call me too. You can always reach out to me through the chamber, or I'll stick around for a little bit. But, we want to hear from you because we want you to succeed. Again, representing, the lifeblood of our community are the smaller companies. We love the new companies. We absolutely love that because they're helping us drive to the forward, but we can't forget where we came from. So appreciate that.